Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss horror and books. And today I'm here to let you know the books that I managed to read in the month of January.
It's coffee time!
So January was not the best reading month for me. As I've mentioned before, my start of 2023 was not the best and I was a little bit demotivated and I was not reading much. February is slowly catching up, but it's also kind of a low reading month. But I'm not gonna beat myself up because, you know, we read what we can. And I still managed to read 6 things in the month of January, which is still a lot because some of the books were a bit chunky. And I'm here to let you know what I thought about those 6 books. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope that you have your cup of coffee ready because we are about to dig into the book reviews. They are always spoiler free here, and we do like to rate our books with coffee mugs, starting with the lowest rating to the highest, so we always end up on a positive note. The first book I would like to talk to you about is Never Been Kissed by Timothy Janowski, and I picked this one up because I wanted to ease myself into 2023 horror. I thought maybe a light-hearted kind of romance would be perfect for January, and even though I enjoyed it, I was also slightly disappointed because this book had the potential of being 100% my thing, and then it didn't really catch me. You see, we follow Roland. He has this idea that whenever he shares his first kiss, it's going to be perfect. He loves movies, so he's looking for that kind of perfect romantic scene set up so that he can have that first kiss. It's not like he hasn't had any opportunities before to share a first kiss, but he's been waiting for the perfect moment, and that still has not happened. He also works at a drive-in theater where they show films, and he's kind of trying to also help the owner modernize it, appeal to younger audiences because he wants to bring in more customers, since, you know, a lot of people nowadays, or a lot more people, are not going to this kind of places. And even though this was a cute, really slow burn romance and it did have a lot of good important life messages, I still felt like I was not as invested as I should have been. I kind of already had that feeling from the beginning, but I kept going and I kept going to see if it will maybe turn around, but it never did. So I didn't love it as much as I hoped. I think my issue was the lack of character depth, and also that the kind of romantic relationship that starts to form here, I felt like they didn't give them like specific scenes or moments to actually build up that romantic spark, that relationship. So it felt a little bit like unrealistic to me, but I really did like to kind of follow the main character's journey of self-discovery, and I did, you know, keep going until the end to figure out what happened, but it was not one that I would reread. And then on my Kindle, I read the last Christmas book that I had on my list for 2022, and that was Krampus and the Thief of Christmas by Eldridge Black. And this was a lot of fun, a lot more than I anticipated originally. I picked this one just because, you know, it was a middle grade that had Krampus. It was about Christmas and I was really excited because I love to read this kind of stuff for the season. This book was not just about Krampus, it was also about duty and sacrifices that have to be made, about family, about love, about a lot of other things, and it was so much more cuter than I expected. The book was also really imaginative and it had a lot of cool things, and I felt like it managed to bring you that Christmas joy, but at the same time it made it spooky because Krampus, obviously. Gabrielle, who is our main character, is staying at her uncle's with her younger brother, and it is Christmas season, so Krampus is sending his minions to kind of get the kids that are on the naughty list and bring them to him so that he can punish them for being bad kids. And even though Gabriella's brother is actually a really good kid, he gets taken by Krampus minions, and so Gabriella is gonna have to travel to this horrific world where they live to try to rescue her brother. I think this one is gonna be perfect for people that really enjoy to read a dark fairy tale. Next we have Bite by Richard Lehman, and I tend to love all of his books, and even though I did really enjoy this one, I felt like this has been one of my least favorites simply because the story turned really repetitive, and I felt like a lot of things were necessary to actually bring the story that he wanted across. That being said, I think it's a great exploration of character, as most of the times with his books where people are being put in extreme situations where decisions need to be made. You don't know who to trust, you don't know what to do to survive, and you also get to see the darker side of people. So all of those things are always present in his books, and they were also here, and I did really love the characters' journey, how their decisions were made, how they changed their minds, and how they were willing at some point to do absolutely anything just to survive. However, if you're picking up this book because you think it is 100% just about vampires, you might be in for a really bad trip, because it is not specifically about vampires, even though there is a tiny little smidgen part about it. Now, thankfully, I was warned some time ago, I think when I bought the book, by one of my lovely subscribers that this was not a vampire book, so I feel like I already went into the book with lower expectations when it comes to the vampires. Our main character Sam gets a visitor in the middle of the night, comes knocking at his door, and that is Kat. It's a girl that he's had a crush on all his life, and she asks him for a favor. She wants him to help her kill a vampire. That's how the story starts, and then it turns into a hell of a road trip, and it keeps escalating, and things get more and more complicated and brutal, as you could expect from a Richard Lehman book. I think this book had really amazing, interesting ideas, and I feel like there is some really cool twists and turns in the story. I also feel like this book had a phenomenal ending. I absolutely loved the ending, but I also need to admit that this book could have been edited down quite a bit. There's a lot of descriptions and things that are just thrown in there, and sometimes even cut the tension that he's trying to build, so they were not even beneficial for the story, all of those extra informations that we probably didn't need. But all in all, I just really like Richard Lehman stories because they're just so messed up, and things tend to get worse and worse as you progress with the book. So it's always fun towards the end, and his endings are always amazing to me. Next we have Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. This is the second book on his trilogy after Bear Town, and I was really excited to return to this town and to these characters, and it does take off after the events in the first book. There's like a little summary, a little bit of what happened as a refresher at the very beginning, which I appreciated. Now, after what happened in the first book, we follow the citizens of Bear Town as they face new challenges and problems arise, and they're also threatened to lose their beloved hockey team. One of the joys of reading Fredrik Backman is that everything feels so real. It almost feels like you're reading a true story with real characters, something that actually happened. You feel like you're there in that town, breathing the same air the characters are breathing. And also the wide range of different characters and different things they're going through. The way he can put you in the mind of all of them, like effortlessly changing from character to character, is just amazing to me. Apart from that, it is absolutely beautifully written. There is a lot of one-liners that are just poetry to me, and the way he delivers powerful messages, it's just flawless. However, there are many trigger warnings for his books, so I do encourage you to check it out before you dive into them. But I feel like even though he is talking about really hard topics, he manages to give different perspectives, point of view. The way he presents everything is so respectful, and I'm just so impressed by the way that he handles these really difficult and heavy topics to talk about. I personally enjoyed this one a little bit less than Bear Town, but the way that he writes is just fantastic, and I really had a good time with this one. It's something that I normally would not read because it's not horror. It's not actually even really a thriller. It's more a drama. It's more about the people that live in that town and problems that we all have, things that we all think at some point. And it's just so wonderful. So if you've never read Frederick Backman before, I do recommend you to give a shot to Beartown, but do check the trigger warnings first. Now let's talk about The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. Now, I did a reread of this book because obviously the movie was coming out. I did go and watch the movie, and I'm gonna have a spoiler-free review of the movie soon in my other channel. And if I have time, I hope to have time, because I would like to make a book versus movie video and comment my thoughts on things that were changed, what I thought was better, etc, etc. Now, since I've already reviewed this book before, there's not too much I can tell you about, but I did change my mind a little bit. The first time I read this book, I was a little bit unsure about the ending, and I felt like it was not satisfying enough for me, but now I like the ending a lot. And it might have been because I was not happy with the ending the movie had. Now, the story follows Andrew and Eric. They are parents of a little girl called Wen, and they decide to go on a vacation. So they take a road trip to a cabin that is a little bit in the middle of nowhere. They just want to be isolated there. There's no internet. They just want to have some really good quality family time. But then 4 strangers knock at their door. They say that they are there because they have a very important mission, and they need them to make a really important decision. And that is basically how the story starts. This is a book and a story that you cannot talk about too much, because then you might spoil things that are really cool if you don't know them before you jump into it. But this was also my first Paul Tremblay book, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it the second time around as well. And I'm really happy that this has been his first book that has been brought into the big screen, that has been adapted at all. Hopefully maybe his other books will also be adapted now, we will see. But I really enjoyed it, so if you have not read the book yet, I do recommend you guys to pick it up. And last but not least, we need to talk about the first 5 coffee mug rating of the year for me, and that is The Midnight Game by Cynthia Murphy. You know, those books that you know you're gonna have a good time with them, you know you're gonna enjoy them because you're besties, people you trust, people that have the same kind of taste you do, they tell you it's great and you're like, I'm gonna have such a good time. And then you end up loving it to a level that you didn't expect yourself to love it. That's what happened with this book. Like, I love it, okay? I love it. I want to reread it, and I'm obsessed with this book. Part of it is because I had the time of my life reading it. This was a quick read for me, which normally I'm not that quick, but I just needed to know. I wanted to keep reading. It was fun. It has some really cool twists and turns, and it also has some really cool mixed media integrated. We follow a group of strangers that meet at Reddit, and that is kind of like a message board kind of chat thing where you can talk to people probably about horror stuff, you know, Reddit, and it's really cute. And so this group of strangers are talking about certain legends and myths, and somebody mentions the Midnight Man, and they start talking about a game that people have been playing for years called the Midnight Game, and they decide, let's try it. Why not? It might be fun. Let's meet at night with strangers that we just met online to play this really dangerous game. Sounds fantastic to me. But that is what they do. They actually meet, and they go somewhere where they can spend the night playing the Midnight Game. And what I can tell you about the game is that there is a set of rules that you need to follow if you want to stay alive and survive the night. But of course, as our characters start to play the game, they realize that their lives might actually really be in danger, and fear is real. This book is filled with horror, with tension, with some really cool twists. It's also fun, and it's gonna keep you hooked. It's gonna keep you reading because I could not put it down. Definitely one of the best YA horror books that I have read so far. Really enjoyed it, and I am going to have Cynthia Murphy in my channel towards the end of February. I will let you guys know exactly when. We're gonna talk about the book, we're gonna discuss it spoiler free. I'm gonna ask her questions, so if you have any questions for her, let me know in a comment down below. Send me a message, DM me, whatever you can. And yeah, if you still have not read the book, you have time until that live show, that Q&A with Cynthia, so that you can read the book and then come and join us on the live show. Alright guys, so that is everything that I read in the month of January. It was not too much, but I really enjoyed most of the things that I read. Apart from the romance book that was not exactly what I expected, everything else I had a really good time with. Especially I found my first 5 coffee mug rating book of the year already in January. That's exciting. So let me know down below what you read in January, if you've read any of the books that I have mentioned here. Have you read The Midnight Game? I really need to know. I need everybody of you guys to check it out because I'm dying to talk about it. Alright guys, let me know down below what is your favorite thing that you read in January, and I hope to see you all as always in our next coffee time. Bye!